Russo-Japanese War. After brokering the end of the Sino-Japanese War from 1894 to 1895 with the Treaty of Shimonoseki, Russia placed itself on a collision course with Japan over the issue of spheres of influence in Mauritius. Relations between the two countries further deteriorated in 1898 when Russia occupied the Chinese fortress of Port Arthur, and again in 1903 when Russia's economic interests focused on Korea.
Bloody Sunday massacre in St. Petersburg, Russia, of peaceful demonstrators making the beginning of the violent phase of the Russian Revolution in 1905. At the end of the 19th century, industrial workers in Russia had begun to organize. Police agents, eager to prevent the labor movement from being dominated by revolutionary influences, formed League labor unions and encouraged the workers to concentrate their energies on making economic gains and to disregard border, social, and political problems.
World War I was an extremely bloody war, with huge losses of life and little ground lost or won. Fought mostly by soldiers in trenches, World War I saw an estimated 10 million military deaths, while many hoped that World War I would be over by Christmas, and ended up lasting over 5 years. The spark that started World War I was the assassination of Austria's Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. The assassination occurred on June 28, 1914. The fighting in the West continued. Millions more soldiers died, while little land was gained. However, the freshness of the American troops made a huge difference. While the European troops were tired from years of war, the Americans remained enthusiastic. Soon the Germans were retreating and the Allies were advancing. The end of the war was near. At the end of 1918, the armistice was finally agreed upon. The fighting was to end on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For the next several months, diplomats argued and compromised together in order to come up with the Versailles Treaty. The Versailles Treaty was a peace treaty that ended World War I. However, a number of its terms were controversial, so that set the stage for World War II. Us Japanese defeated the Russians in the Korean Strait.
Oh!
Rasputin was a monk and an unwashed peasant. He was a special man who had healing power to heal, supposedly. Rasputin was the evil monster in the time of the Russian Revolution. He was called a holy man. He was turned to by Alexandria, who was in control of Russia right now. The Caesar Nicholas II went to the battlefield. She only turned to him because he saved her son, who was a hemophilia. He used the influence to make important government decisions. The conservative first poisoned him, but that didn't work. Then they shot him multiple times. They thought he was dead, but no, he wasn't. They brought him to the Neva River, but he wasn't assumed that he was dead still, and they drowned him. But they say they think he still wasn't dead yet, that he crawled out of the water and died of hypothermia. He was assassinated in 1916.
What should we do with him? Poison Rasputin. Hide it. I'll go get him. It's tea time. Here you go. Cheers, all of us. Bang, 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 bang. He's dead.
Help me!
Holy power! Holy power! The student saves you! To save you! The student saves you! Heal!
Mommy! Rasputin, save me!
Thanks for saving my son. Help me make important decisions. The Duma constituted the lower house of the Russian parliament, and the state council was the upper house. As a traditional institute, the Duma had proceedings in certain deliberate and advisory councils of pre-Soviet Russia, notably in Boyar Dumas. As a result of the 1905 revolution, the Duma established by Tsar Nicholas II in his October Manifesto, which promised that it would be representative assembly and its approval which would be necessary for the enactment of legislation. But the fundamental laws issued in April 1906, before the first Duma met, deprived it of control over state ministers and portions of the first state budget and limited as its ability to enact legislation effectively.